are on.
And the
Yay.
sunshine is back.
And we've got food.
We have cake.
We have a bit changing around today. Hello. We have a noisy dog in the background, but we also have a house full of people, so we're keeping as well away from these people as we can until we get one of them on.
I thought you were just keeping me away from the cake.
No, it's so people can see my ugly face. So we have a very special guest coming on today, courtesy of somebody else who's looking after my dog at the moment. So we'll just go through the local stuff, and then we'll get our guests on. What's happening? What do you want to start with? Well, we'll start. Shall we start off with Carmack?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we'll do.
We always like to start off with. We've got a bit of an audience today as well. We always like to start off with Carmack simply because get the bad stuff out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
One of the boats has broken down. The Isle of Arran has broken down today. I believe it's today, isn't it? Yes. Today it's broken down. So. Back to normality on that score.
So that's the normal start to the
So
season.
that's the normal pessimistic start we've got to the show. Be quiet, Dusty. So that's that. Otherwise, I think we're running okay. We're up to 2 boats now and a better schedule. We
I've also taken the social distancing down.
On the boat.
You have to wear a mask, but you can get more people on the boat.
You still have to wear a mask. But that's getting better. It's still not perfect, of course, but that's getting better.
It's really nice because there's more people about. You can feel we're starting to get our holiday destination feel about us. That's good. And shops are open.
So Dusty's now complaining. He never complains, and then the day we need him quiet. Yeah, we've got a microphone that picks everything up, so we'll get a little bit of that during this afternoon. But anyway,
shops are open.
Shops are open. 2 of which are not open, or at least one of which is closing down. It's Bell's, unfortunately. Bell's boutique in Bell's of Arran, is closing down. We're not sure when, but they've got a closing down notice on their shop door, so that's unfortunate. And we've also heard yesterday that the PHT, the Piad Tavern in Lamlash, is closing down as well, certainly for the foreseeable. Shush.
The notice that went up actually said it was until COVID's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be quite a long time.
Well, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of concerned about seeing Australia. My friend in Australia is posting stuff all the time, and again, you see Australia going up again, and that's kind of worrying because they were very, very quick to close this down very early on. So we'll see what happens there. The noises in the background is just Dusty, and it is kind of. It's topical that we've got an animal making noises in the background, I think. So we'll let him off. We'll let him off with that today.
I think he's being very, very good.
He's being well looked after. I've got a little mention for Hunters. Hunters is the only place along the shorefront that's actually open for coffees and teas outside at the moment until Little Rock kicks in, I think, on Wednesday. I poked my nose in there this morning. There was nobody in, but it's looking really nice in Little Rock. Hunters is doing a special Thursday to Saturday, 4 till 8 p.m. fixed price menu for £14, and you can go in and get a burger, chicken and chips or something, a drink and an ice cream.
It's just really nice to see people outside sitting and they're eating and they're talking and they're still social distancing, and there's a lovely atmosphere. It's really nice.
Certainly from my point of view, it's the first time I've been out and had a drink outside, even though it was coffee this morning, and this lot here, believe me, they've been out quite a lot more.
Les has been busy making Midgie candles.
But if it hadn't been for someone posting the fact that they've been out, we wouldn't have had them in the building today. So that's nice. But Les has been making what?
Midgie candles.
Yeah, it was bad last night. Yeah, I was talking to Hugh from the Banner, and the conversation was cut very short because we were both getting bitten to death. The Arran Museum is opening on the 22nd. That includes the Cafe Rosaburn, so that will be another popular outdoor cafe venue out there going into the museum. I'll mention this next one, and you can do a few bits, but I did go up to Broddick Castle on...
Take your stringer with you.
I am not showing the photograph, but I don't know. They're charging people now to go into the grounds on I think it's Thursday through Saturday or Thursday through Sunday. I was a little bit, we were knee deep in grass. The cafe's shut. The the adventure playground is shut and the castle itself is shut. So I'm not quite sure, what you go and see. The walled garden is presumably open as well, but in the meantime, it's quite overgrown there. So I'm hoping they've got the lawnmowers out by now, but nothing much is open up there other than the gardens themselves, and they are charging during that time span, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Is the shop open?
I don't know. They didn't mention that on the little board they had outside the thing. But anyway, so that's that.
The other thing that's open, that because things have been closed, we haven't managed to get the art trail brochures out. But a lot of the studios are open, maybe on reduced hours, not the ones that are there. Some of them just by appointment. So I know, like for example, my studio is open just Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 12 till 3, so it's reduced hours. But there are a few that are open.
You're always getting a sneaky advert, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good. There's a lot of really nice studios. Have you been to any of them? No? No? Well, I can give you a... So these hopefully will be out and about in the shops, because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to open any of them or not. And we've gone through all the procedures for safe distancing and hand washing and things. It's not been desperately busy, but it's been nice.
Dusty's now chewing one of our guests.
He looks as if he's enjoying it, actually.
So, right, well, that's that. What, have you got anything else local?
Just not a lot. I was admiring your petunias earlier.
Thank you. I know
they're
that they're stunning. I put these out because we have quite a bit of a nature lover here today, so I hope he appreciates the petunias and the fresh mint, which is actually very nice as well.
I thought you were going to get a petunia leaf there. It's
no, isn't that nasturtium's leaves you're going to eat? It's not petunias, is it?
Some of them, yeah.
Well, you can...
Are these your own cheese straws?
Help yourself. They are my own cheese straws. I'm not starting a business up making cheese straws though, so... Gus Simpson says he's having a pint at the wine port. Very happy. Nice to be back on Arran. I know this is the week that is going to make or break the season for us. All the hotels, or those that can open this week, will open this week. It's certainly not been worth me opening my shop, but then I'm very souvenir based, so we'll give it a run this week and see what happens. But it's nice to see people coming over. The boat's coming in again now, so and we've got people here that are regular visitors to Arran, but able to come over as well. So I think without any further ado, we will. Shall we get these people on, because this is rather a special occasion for us. So to introduce these people, I'm going to put on a little bit of video, and it'll immediately tell you who we've got coming in. And if we can get the dog to be quiet, thank you, Dusty. I'll turn the microphones on and put this video on, and we'll get our guests up.
Oh my word! Have a look at this. Oh gosh.
This is the world's largest rat.
That is the biggest rat I have ever seen.
That is a murid rat, a true rat, the same family as the rats you find in cities and sewers.
You've got a big smile on your face.
The reason I'm smiling, Gordon, is that this is absolutely a new species.
Okay.
This is something that doesn't have a scientific name. This is one of the largest rats in the world, and here we are holding it.
I just think it is an amazing creature, found nowhere else on the entire planet. That is such a huge deal. And this animal is so chilled out. Look at him, he's just grinning.
And you can tell it's a rat, but yet it looks like just so different from any rat you've ever seen, right? It's just incredible.
I had a cat, and the cat was about the same size as this rat. It would, any cat that you buy to catch rats is going to run a mile from something like this.
Mount Wasabi is such a big mountain. It's largely unexplored. It's so isolated that truly some of the things we are finding are new species, and they're spectacular new species. Big rats, cuscus, fantastic animals.
It gave me the heebie-jeebies, the thought of a giant rat, and I've been going down holes in sort of hollow trees looking for big things, and it's actually kept me awake at night. And here he is. He's just, he's like a little puppy.
And here he is. Very delighted to see Gordon Buchanan here with his wife Wendy. It's such a nice thing to have, isn't it?
It's nice to have people.
I know, nice to have people. And especially nice to have Gordon here, because when you came in, I said there was a reason why some of your series way back 10, that particular series was important to me. and I did mention to you about my parents. My mum and I used to watch, as you did, I think, when you were young, Life on Earth, David Attenborough, and everyone got a kick out of that in the early 80s when that came off. And my mum and I would watch that religiously all the time. And I don't think after that, Mum was able to comprehend, after your series, The Lost Land of the volcanoes and the tigers and all that. Those were the last ones, and I remember Mum having a conscious ability to sort of focus on. So we sat and watched them, when you'd done those. So it was really important for me to have that memory with Mum that she was still watching nature documentaries. And then after that, she tailed away. She went blind and stuff. So it was great to have you here. And I know, thanks to Mark. And he says utter nonsense films for bringing you here.
Well, when he asked me last night, I'd already had a couple of pints. It was an easy decision to say, "Oh yes, I'll do it."
It was very short notice, and we do appreciate you making the effort. Gets you out of the pub and away from Mark for a while. Although Mark's standing about 10 feet.
We're on holiday. We're sort of officially on our summer holidays now.
Right. So, we knew you came up here quite a bit, obviously, because we've seen you here before. But to have you here is great. So, if you've got any questions you want to ask Gordon, just let us know. I want to ask you something first, if you don't mind, Heather. Can I just get in there?
Go for it.
Can I get in there? David Attenborough is getting on a bit now. Who's going to replace him? Is there going to be a need to replace an iconic figure like that? And what happened to Brian Cox's? Because at one point they were sort of touting him as a potential.
Yes, well, I think David Attenborough mentioned him as a sort of a successor. I think somebody put him on the spot and said, "Who's going to take over from you?" But I think when he mentioned Brian Cox, he was talking about that sort of, I suppose, level of authority, because it's a completely different ballpark than what he does. But kind of the sort of answer that I came up with because that's been around for most of my career. Like who's going to replace him? And he's like, David Attenborough's busier now than he ever has been. But it's a bit like the Mona Lisa being sort of retiring, taking it off the wall, and like, what do you put up in its place? And it's irreplaceable. And David Attenborough similarly is irreplaceable. There'll be that kind of. There'll just be a kind of hole in that spot. And TV's changed sort of so much, I suppose, since he started, that he ticks so many boxes, but there's lots of people doing their own thing. So with wildlife, kind of people like Chris Packham, and he's very distinctive. Steve Backshall doing his thing, kind of I'm doing my thing. So it's sort of, there's a whole lot of other people that kind of maybe kind of fill the toes of one of David Attenborough's shoes.
But I think when you did that Lost Land, the expedition series that the BBC put on, and this is something we just mentioned just minutes before you came on, there isn't the funding for that anymore, and that was a huge bunch of programs that were produced. I've got a picture here of the four of you, Steve Backshall, George McGavin. Who just amazed a lot of people because he just used to cover himself with insects, didn't they? And the other person, Alan Rabinowitz, yes, he was with yourself. I just when I saw that, I thought this is something quite unique. It was a bit like watching Brian Cox's programs. I thought these are very, very special series of programs, and are they being diluted by Freeview and all these American imports? Like Ice Road Truckers and all that nonsense coming over.
The first one we did was 2006, and it was sort of they wanted to do an expedition that would entertain. So it was sort of educate and entertain. But the producer at the time made a really sort of clever decision, was to actually let's use this sort of TV budget that we have and this opportunity to find out more about certain places. So they put together a scientific team and sort of filmmakers that went out and with the mission of trying to find new species. And they were all rainforest, other than the tiger one. It was kind of rainforest mostly, because that's where you stand the best chance of actually finding new species.
Yeah.
But
how do you cope in these circumstances? Do you quite enjoy that, or?
Yeah, the thing is, it's not like discomfort is sort of makes you very inventive. So there's no, I don't want to sit and be uncomfortable, but what I love is being in a place that most people wouldn't be comfortable, but actually finding
holiday destination.
Yeah, finding ways to make yourself comfortable. So yeah, I was sitting in a hide for a month, and I was doing the leopard sequence for Planet Earth in Mumbai, and I thought, right, if I'm going to be in this hide for a month every single night for sort of 17-hour shift, I don't want to be uncomfortable. So I went in and I started off taking one beer with me, and I think then I took 4 beers, a curry, I had fly paper up inside to keep the sort of mosquitoes away, and a little fan to keep myself cool, and a very comfy seat, and I was happy as a hippo. And it was just it was very like no problem. The only the downside was each day I'd hear the guys that would come and take me out in the morning. I'd hear their voices. I thought, actually, I quite like being in this little dark tent.
It's actually quite antisocial a lot of the time.
I am. Yeah, Wendy's always trying to encourage me to be more sociable. So.
And do you ever go out, Wendy, and join them? Do you ever...
Not really.
we did the bear series, which was the kind of first big thing that I did more when Wendy and the kids came out, and that was
in Minnesota though.
Amazing.
We had a cabin, and it wasn't like sitting in hides or anything. The kids were really little, so it was our holiday, and that was actually very nice. And then there's like an amazing moment at this cabin because there's this specialist. He seemed to attract all these bears. He put sort of like food out for the bears, and they would come and go, and they're wild bears. And then this kind of like amazing moment when the wild bear just came up on a terrace, like much like your own, and we're hand feeding it. And the kids were really little at the time, and they were sort of trying to hug it and stuff. And we were like, there's just an incredible photo of us all sat on a kind of bench, and there's a bear that looks like it's kind of sat on the bench like this as well. It looks like it actually looks like a guy in a suit, but it's a real bear.
But a lot of places are, it's just too remote or too uncomfortable that after we did the bear one, I was working when I was doing the wolves in the Arctic, and I thought we should come out as a family, but it really wouldn't have worked. It was so far away and actually wouldn't be a safe place to have young kids just because it was so remote.
He says that, but there was also an occasion when he was up in Svalbard and was about to be, which is right at close to the North Pole, and he was going to be spending a month on a boat going through the North Pole, and he said, "You should come out with the kids, it could be like our holiday." Two tiny kids on a boat in the Arctic is not a holiday.
And the kids are here, and you must have been very grateful, I guess, you two, when you saw the footage afterwards of the polar bear getting that close to your dad.
Well, actually, on that boat, it was the closest to death that I felt that I ever was. It was this big storm, and we shouldn't really have been out, but we were flying back in sort of 3 days' time, and the skipper was like, "You're going to miss the flight. You need to stay in this fjord and get the next flight." Or we could just go out and try and sort of see how we got on. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. How bad is it going to be? And as we were leaving, we'd all these Russian big fishing trawlers. Every ship in the area had just sort of come in to shore, and we'd ventured out. And
so they're all coming into shelter and you're
and
heading
for
out.
2 days, literally 48 hours, we were going through this storm, and it was. I thought we're going to go over, and the waves were so huge. I've been in boats when it's been rough and it goes like that, but the ship was sliding down these huge waves, and it kept the bottom, and this is like a sort of icebreaker ship, and everything's tied down, but every sort of 5 minutes you could hear things in the hold get like rolling about and getting knocked over. So the skipper I said, how far did the ship go over last night? He said, further than ever before. But yeah, I thought for 2 days that it was literally sort of my last minutes.
Stories.
I was going to say, is that more scary than a hungry polar bear trying to eat you?
Yeah, I mean it was, because it lasted it was 2 days, and nobody ate, no one was moving around the ship. Like I just sat in my bed and I was watching stuff on my laptop, but thinking,
That's it.
I might die soon, so I'll just sort of catch up on Netflix. But Jason, who Wendy's worked with, he's quite an interesting character. He's done more hardcore sort of like Arctic and Antarctic filming than anyone, but he's like a bit of a lightweight when it comes to being on boats. He gets really badly seasick, and he was so sick. He took the mattress off his bed, folded it in half, put it in the cupboard, and just wedged himself into his cupboard for 2 days. And he just sat. I went and checked on him, and he's just sort of wedged in the cupboard, vomiting.
I can vouch for that. I used to go up there. I lived in Shetland for a while, and there was a strap that held the bed against the wall, and when you put the bed down, you'd use that strap to put around your leg. It was that rough going up there sometimes, and the bathroom that I had in my cabin was not one that you'd want to go
That's not my idea.
A few years ago, I was working up on Fair Isle through the summer, coming and going, and as frequently the plane doesn't fly, so I had to get the wee, what's it called? I can't remember the name of the boat that goes to Fair Isle, but it's like a cork. It's really badly designed, and there was a heap of tourists coming off. I think it's like 18 people could sort of sit in it's like spacecraft chairs that you buckle yourself in, and so there was 18 of us, and I was the only one that wasn't sick. So that's quite a thing to be sitting in a very small cabin with 17 vomiting people.
That's enough to. It's not. That's enough to set you off. Oh, horrible.
But you've been stuck in some really. I mean, you go to places that. Sorry, but you go to places where most people wouldn't either think about going or definitely don't want to go, because that's the nature of why you go there, to see species that aren't regularly, in contact with humans. So how does that compare to being seasick on a boat? Because some of the places you've gone to, I just couldn't. I mean, that particular place, it was at Papua New Guinea, wasn't it, and Borneo and places like that are fairly, restricted in their facilities.
I suppose my world is now kind of very different, because I've been doing this since I was 17. So from the moment I kind of left school to get my first job, I've just been in some really crazy places, and sort of, and I hope I'm not complacent, but going to places that people would literally give their, left arm to go to, are the places that people could never get the permission to go there, and I'm sort of so lucky that every single year I'm going to some other kind of distant corner of the world. So I do.
And that obviously includes Aaron.
It does include Aaron. Yes.
So sorry, he just barks at trucks. So obviously you just come here to chill out and see family and make sure Mark's behaving himself. But what do you do when you come here? Do you don't have the busman's holiday type thing, do you? Or do
I've brought my jigsaw. No, I think because.
Not joking.
So Wendy and Tracy's family are from Arran, so they're from Lamlash. So it's the island's got kind of strong. Wendy has a strong connection with Arran, and we've never.
Never actually holidayed properly. We sort of come over like for a weekend or for an occasion, and we've never actually come here on a proper holiday. So this is the first time.
I've occasionally seen you in Ardrossan Terminal, and I thought, this.
Yeah.
But then because Tracy selfishly sort of had 5 kids, so it meant that we had to sit. There was a lot of in the early days. There was a lot of sitting about in the house because it was just sort of taking the kids out. It was sort of So this sort of my mission is to try and kind of explore Arran a bit sort of more. So Goatfell, I'm definitely going to climb.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to climb Goatfell.
I was going to ask you, because you is it right? You grew up in Mull.
Yes.
And you did a whole thing with the white-tailed eagles. Do we have the same kind of eagles here? I shouldn't be asked. I should know. Shouldn't I? What kind of eagles we have here?
Oh, for goodness sake!
There must be. I don't.
They do visit.
But they're not our resident eagles.
I mean, there will be. They'll be here before too long, because they're sort of as they're spreading out, they're kind of populating the coastline, and Arran perfect. I'm surprised that they're not here already.
I mean, I've never seen an eagle properly.
I saw one yesterday.
Twice. Up Glen Rose, it's always up Glen Rose.
I saw one yesterday coming over the string. They seem to be more visible on the String Road this year than they do over the Berkeley. I don't know why, but I've seen one 2 out of the last 6 or 7 times I've been over to Blackwater. I've seen one come down.
if you think with golden eagles, if you're not looking for them, they're quite hard. They're quite hard to see because they're sort of often they're flying really high up. We were up in Skye a couple of years ago, and there was 5 golden eagles flying about, and they were once you got your eyes on them, it was sort of you could see them, but it'd be quite easy to.
Maybe I have seen them and I didn't realise. It's only when they come right down you think, oh, that's definitely an eagle.
Well, you see the white-tailed eagles, they're massive. They're quite spectacular when you see them. So.
I remember going to I went to San Diego Zoo once, and we went up to I just walked up to one of the cages, and there was all these Americans here standing, and kids and stuff, and we were all looking through this cage for a harpy eagle, and we were all going, I can't see it anywhere, and suddenly one of these kids screams, and he backs off, and the thing was actually standing right next to the fence, but it was so big. It was standing up about 3.5 foot high, this thing, next to these kids. We just assumed it was one of the kids watching. And it was just sitting there, everyone jumped back, it was such a massive thing. But I get kind of spooked out by some big animals like that.
So do you worry about him when he's away?
Well,
oh gosh,
well, things like the boat and the polar bear, and I actually only find out about these things afterwards. So if I knew he was going in a perspex box and having a polar bear
for a tin opener,
yeah, exactly. It's like,
if you haven't seen the polar bear thing, just do a YouTube for Gordon Buchanan polar bear, and you'll see the footage. But on that particular case, though, everyone else at home. Maybe you not, but everyone else is assuming that there's 10 people behind the camera with shotguns and stuff, and I assume you've got that kind of protection if it got out of.
No, I mean.
No. Wrong answer.
What's it
or something?
I can answer this because you. So there is lots of people. They had a flare, to scare it. You had a shotgun as well, but they would
That's kind of law in Svalbard. You have to leave town. You have to have a gun with you.
But they're also very protective of the bears, so they don't ever let them. But so this is what I'm saying. This perspex box thing. The bear was actually, what you can't really see is that it's on the sea ice, and there's patches of sea ice that are looking very thin. And the bear, my biggest fear actually when after I saw it was not that the bear would get in, but the bear looked like it was pushing it towards and I was like, well, there's literally nothing anyone can do if it's going to do that. So
no, because with that, it was we obviously had this thing designed to kind of, because I never ever thought that we'd have an encounter like that, because we'd used it.
I just like on the video if you watch this video and the bear's coming up and touching the cage, and then it's only then that you decide to lock the cage door.
Just double check.
It was actually the front when it was being designed. Polar bears, despite their size, even big males, their heads are very narrow. So because of the way that they hunt, so they sort of hunt seals, so they've evolved to have these very long necks and narrow heads, so they can sort of go into the seal's breathing hole. So I said, make sure that the filming port is only as big as the front of the lens.
Yeah.
And I said, just measure the front of the lens and just give it a kind of an inch on either side. And then when we got it out and I kind of put it together, they must have measured the kind of, there's a mat box in it, that piece of equipment on the front of the lens that they measured, so the hole was that size. And after a couple of weeks, the lock that was in that rattled off and we lost it, so there's no way of locking it. It was a sliding door, so I was like, the bear was pushing, but if it had decided to slide it, it would have been.
It does. It just looks like you've been down to B&Q and got a bathroom and locked them.
Well, they pretty much did. And I
get into trouble.
You know how they tested it? They tested it by putting, when they saw the bear, they got it and put a big sheet of the perspex stuff and hit it with a sledgehammer a couple of times. Like, well, you'll be fine, off you go.
Yeah, but we've got to make. They said it's only been tested to sort of minus 5, this perspex.
Right.
So what temperature were you? And I was like, it could be like -30.
Yeah.
So we, on a nice cold day, we smacked it with a mallet a couple of times, and it seemed to be fine. But yeah, the first thing it was
you just seem remarkably calm. You do. I mean, at one point you said, "Oh, I'm getting a bit worried," but that was a bit as far as it. Wasn't
just.
Well, he had time to send me a selfie from the box as well. So.
insure me. No, I mean, the first thing that the bear did was, so there was it wasn't thin ice, there was actually holes in the ice. And the first thing that the bear did was just like give it a shove. And it was on a sledge, and the sledge went and slid across, and I'm like looking at this big black hole in the ice. And if it does that again,
You're gonna have to open the
I'd rather
door.
drown in sort of icy Arctic water or be mauled by a polar bear.
Yeah.
But then it went round the other side and then thankfully shoved it back, but then it gave another shove and it went to another hole and it got bored of shoving it and then just started kind of make friends with me.
That went viral, didn't it? Really quickly.
Yeah.
It was picked up by all the news media outlets
Yeah,
and
it was
everything
on.
else.
Jay Leno show was like
Is it Letterman or?
yeah.
One of the American late night shows.
Yeah.
So is that the scariest, or are there scarier moments you've had?
God, you're really trying to drive a wedge between these two, aren't you?
I mean, that was scary, and I think because there was sort of the kind of risk of it. I mean, I could have the rest of the crew were kind of at the ship on the ice, and I suppose the plan would have been. They didn't even have a plan. Like, what if it was like this thing? We never thought it was going to come that close because we'd left it out in the ice. I'd been in it several times, and bears would just walk past. We'd one occasion a bear walked past and didn't come over, so we just thought, no, they're not interested. But the plan would have been, so Jason would have got on the skidoo and chased the bear with the skidoo, because I think although you're legally obliged to have guns with you, there's never, they're just not out sort of, I wouldn't want, it'd be my own stupid fault with any animal, if I was.
Do you not use
putting myself in danger.
tranquilizer guns? Do you not have
They
tranquilizer?
don't work fast enough.
No,
so
they-
just have a very
Rip his arm off
Angry
before.
little
Yeah.
sleepy bear.
But no, I think I wouldn't. And people ask me a lot, often with all sorts of big animals, like, is there someone with a gun there? I was like, kind of fundamentally wrong to put yourself in a potentially dangerous
That you're gonna
situation
shoot.
that's your kind of escape.
I've just always assumed tranquilizers, and then I thought, they'll just knock it
No,
out.
it's
No.
like
No.
Hollywood films got a lot to answer for because
Yeah.
it's sort of like tranquilizer and it goes down. But when you put the collar on the satellite collar on the polar bear, it took a good sort of 10 minutes for it to.
Have you not watched
actually
Jurassic
go
Park?
down.
Tricia Jenkins is saying Gordon should link up with Lucy Wallace. She has an amazing knowledge of Arran wildlife. Lucy's one of our guides that goes up and down the mountains, taking people up and down. But
I saw my first Arran squirrel today. Hopped through the gardens.
Yep. Yep.
It's funny, there haven't been as many this year, but yesterday that I looked out and they were in the bird nuts.
Yeah, no, you'll have to go up the mountains, and there's otters quite a bit here. So, yeah. You've got another question you wanted to ask at the bottom of your list somewhere. I'm going to ask Wendy while you're looking up, because you produce a lot of programs that Gordon's involved in now.
Yeah.
So, are you both freelance, or are you working for the BBC, or how does it work?
No, I've got my own production company, so we make them through the company.
Right.
So the BBC commission us to make them.
I was going to say the BBC comes first and says, go ahead and.
No, it's the other way. We have to go to the BBC. We
Ah,
have to go
okay.
and hawk our wares to the
Right,
BBC and
Right.
hope that they'll like what we're offering and give us the money to then go and make it. And thankfully they do. So that's.
And you work out all the budgets and everything else. So
Yeah.
what happens if they come back and say, sorry, we're not going to pay that much, we're going to pay half of that? Is it?
Well, that happens a lot.
Yeah, but do you trim down the idea, or do you say, no, I'm sorry, we're going to stick with what we want to do, or do you have to say, well...
Well, it's kind of changes. It's changing a lot, and actually, the current circumstances with the lockdown and everything has again changed everything. But they know that these kinds of programs, the BBC have a kind of certain expectation of how much a program will cost like this, and so they know roughly what you're going to be asking for. And then if you don't have enough, you can sort of like rethink what you're going to do, or you can look for money from elsewhere, like distribution and things like that. But so far we've always had as much money as we've needed to make the programs.
But do you think it's being, as I said before, do you think it's being diluted by all these other programs and channels coming up now on Freeview, and there's less to do with sort of quality production?
No. Well, the BBC are always going to be the kind of like standard bearer of
Yeah.
like how you know, how, well, there's a lot of the SVODs like Apple and Netflix and things starting to get into making it, and they've got, up until now, it's only been the BBC that have had the money to make those kinds of programmes. So there's a lot of competition in that sense. But for the kind of things that like we do with Gordon, like those big blue chip things, there's a lot of people looking for those. But there's very few where I don't even like calling you a presenter, because actually it's an experience, it's an immersive experience, and there's very few people doing that. And I think there's a kind of like, for me, I'm much more engaged in programmes like the ones that we make with Gordon, because he's like this kind of link between the audience and the animals, and you're sort of much more invested in watching the kind of narrative and the story, and you get much more invested in the animals as well, because Gordon's invested and he's immersed in the situation. So for me, those kinds of programmes are, it's not wildlife itself. Like our company doesn't just make wildlife programmes, but I like making these kind because people really engage and sort of enjoy them.
I think from an audience point of view, and I was talking about Brian Cox before, just occasionally during his series, he would chat with the cameraman very briefly, and it just gave you that nice little warmth about the production, that it wasn't just a completely staged, and that's what you did in the Lost Land series, was because you were the presenters as much as the people doing, and I think that was what brought a fresh look to the whole thing. When you had Steve Backshaw doing what he was, and you as the cameraman going up trees and whatever it was you were doing.
Yeah, because I think it's just I remember watching, like, before I'd done any work in front of the camera, and I was working for a company. Do you remember Toby? Do you mean Toby? He was kind of like sort of posh, sort of public school educated, sort of white English man, and the company was like, Toby would make a great wildlife presenter because he fitted the bill. He was like white and posh, so they did this a kind of a showreel tape with them, and he was a very passable presenter, and I was like, if I was going to do that, I wouldn't do it like that, because it's sort of, there's no kind of warmth or kind of emotion in it. And then eventually, when I did the first thing that I did do, I kind of I was filming it myself. There was no director, so I just kind of like, it was more of a conversation sort of with the camera, and I found it quite.
There's a passion in it, that you can feel that. There's a passion in it.
Yeah, exactly, and it feels real. And I think that, so when you were asking about, does it feel diluted? I don't think that what Gordon's doing feels diluted, because there isn't anyone else that's doing that kind of thing. So I think there's more channels and there's more nature programs out there, but there's not more people doing that kind of thing. And I think that, people just engage with it.
Yeah.
I have to ask though. Okay, the question when I left, is there a favourite? Have you got a favourite animal?
I've decided to not say that I have a
Mark
favourite.
Bunyan.
I don't have a favourite animal really.
Or one that surprised you more than you thought, or something that's just really taken you.
I don't know.
Pangolin?
I love. Yeah, I mean the pangolin. I was in. Was that last year? Kind of did a quick trip to Namibia and
as you do,
pangolins, and they're really surreal creatures. So it was quite nice to sort of hang out with, because this was a tame pangolin, so it was like taking it for a walk. And I loved the wolves that we filmed in Ellesmere Island. I think that was my favourite. So I used to say wolves were my favourite animal, but it was really because that whole experience.
The whole experience.
So it was not wolves in general, it was those wolves in that part of the world. But last month for Springwatch, and I went over to Lake of Menteith. I'd never been there before, and I was filming ospreys, and I was like, actually that's kind of, I could say that's one of my favourite animals, because the experience of being there, the chalet was staying, it was really lovely, and the weather was great, and I was, this is an experience, that bird has allowed me to have this experience, so it's sort of, it's all kind of time and place.
It's a whole package, it's not just,
First time I filmed tigers, or first time I ever saw a tiger, I was with a member of the team that I kind of.
Be careful.
Okay.
It was challenging. And the experience.
So I have to get my beat button.
And I thought, this is the first time I've been in India, and it's the first time I've seen a tiger. But this whole experience and is sort of hasn't been a particularly pleasant one because the people that you surround yourself with, that's the make or break, really.
That's another thing I was going to ask you about. How often do you keep in touch with people like Steve Backshall and David Attenborough and the others that you've appeared on? Do you keep in touch with them as a friend or as a colleague, or do you just contact them when you've got a mutual project together?
Yeah, well, with Steve, with things like kind of with social media now, it's easier. So Steve, occasionally I'll kind of ping sort of back and forward, and he's just a pair of twins. So I was in touch with him fairly recently.
I'm sure.
But I've got a kind of a date with David Attenborough that I still
David Attenborough, this is a really, really lovely fact about David Attenborough, that he doesn't ever do emails, he writes your letter.
Oh, that's so lovely. Isn't it? It doesn't surprise me either. No,
because I'd met him, actually when Harris was a little tot. We were up in Aviemore, and we came out of the Rothy Marcus car park, and coming in, I was like, it's David Attenborough in that car. And I saw them go into the cafe, and I saw he was with a crew, and there was, I wouldn't ordinarily do these things, but I was like, right, turned round, and one of the guys in the team I knew, so I kind of got Harris and was like, walked into the cafe, bum, 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 bum. Oh, Gavin, hi! You must have met David. And I was like, no, I haven't. And he grabbed Harris's toe. Hello, little man. But then I didn't want to fanboy him, so I was like, oh yeah, just pop him into the cafe for. But then years and years passed, and I thought, I wonder if he watches programs, or specifically if he watches my programs. And I kind of assumed that he wouldn't have a clue who I was. And then I did an interview with somebody, and she's not the last person I interviewed was David Attenborough, and he was he's very complimentary of you and your work.
Lovely.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. As soon as I left that interview, I was like, and the transcript of the interview that she'd done with David Attenborough, I thought, that's very nice. Obviously, to have somebody that's right up there, kind of godlike character. So I wrote my letter and just said, look, it would be great to sort of at some point to meet you, and then a couple of days later, sort of a letter came back, and I loved the phrase that you said, just as we labour in the same vineyard, to meet you. And he said, this is my telephone number. Give us a call and we can. So I was like, oh God. And I was saying it, but eventually I was like, picked up the phone, and then was like, hello, Richmond, whatever number. And I was like, David. Yes. I said, go on. Oh, hello, young man. And we had this sort of nice chat, and he said, well, come down and we'll meet. But as it turned out, we were both patrons of the same charity, and there was an event that we did together, so I kind of properly met with him, but it wasn't. I still haven't had my cup of tea with him. He's too busy.
I met him very briefly. He actually came to the island. I think it was in the 80s. He stayed at Acrani when it first started up, and it was just a small hotel.
Yeah.
And all that really sticks in my head is what a lovely, perfect gentleman he was.
I thought he was still here. I thought he was stuck in the McLaren Hotel car park. The grass is up here. Doing something.
I think you should never meet your heroes, because that was, I was partly nervous because I thought, what if he does something that. He drops in my estimation, but he's that kind of person that he never.
Because he started off doing ZooQuest when he was going around the world picking animals up and putting them in crates and then bringing them back. And later on he said, I couldn't believe how we acted then. It was just so embarrassing to look back at that.
Well, there's it's called Blank on the Map, I think it is. And he went. Must be in the 50s, and he went to Papua New Guinea to find uncontacted people, and there was hundreds of thousands of Papua New Guinean Highlanders that didn't know that there was an outside world, and they kind of ventured in sort of up this river, and then they came to a village that was deserted, but all the people that lived in the village must have seen white men coming and ran away, and they just went into the house, and David Attenborough was going, oh, look at this, and it was like, How rude is that? Like, just picking up sort of like the bows and arrows and sort of cooking pots.
Yes.
I know.
Oops.
Very different times.
But yeah.
So where do you go from here? What's next on the agenda? What's the
Well,
next
Drift in.
project?
Yeah.
Drifting. Don't say that. There's 50 people going to be waiting down there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
Drifting in Lochranza, that is. Yeah.
Well,
Well, most of the people kind of that, be interested in meeting me are kind of probably in bed by sort of that time.
By drifting.
no, we're in the middle of so luckily, like when the lockdown and the virus hit, TV production pretty much all stopped.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of doing a Cheetahs series, and we have managed to keep that going. And so hopefully, if things keep going well, he'll get to go back out in September to finish it.
It's funny because
We've got a small suggestion of a request from one of our school teachers. Would be great for Gordon to do a talk for the school pupils sometime when you're over during the school times. I think that'd be-
and I actually with kids, I'm really keen on sort of like engaging kids in nature. So if I can.
Oh, these two have been hanging on your every word. So there's obviously just waiting for the
There's no
chicken.
other choice.
Just waiting for the chicken nuggets.
But no, I would love to, quite often what I do, because it's sort of normally I'm all over the place and trying to kind of like schedule things in. It's quite hard, but with schools, what I kind of often do like a sort of little Skype chat if it's somewhere that I can't get to. But yeah, I'll be back over once the schools are back.
Yeah. Well, that's all a bit in the ether at the moment, isn't it? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
have we got anything else? Because we're running on for time.
I've
wanna-
got one small thing to
Okay.
do, which I have to wish someone a happy birthday. This is for Robbie, who's, from what I can gather, stuck in Saudi.
Yes, yeah.
So
He's
happy
29.
Happy birthday, Robbie.
birthday, Robbie.
I'll talk to my phone earlier on. You tell your auntie.
We've had a few comments. Chris Atkins just saying the best show yet, riveting. So you'll have to come again to boost our numbers. Thank you very much. So, I think we'll just call it quits there. Let these guys get off. Thank you very much for Gordon and Buchanan and his wife Wendy for coming in, and for Mark and Tracy to organise it all, and for the kids to be patient and sitting waiting for mum and dad, and for the dog to be relatively quiet the last half of the show.
He's got your shoe out there. He's
I'm
shredding
sure
it.
he
I think
has.
that's
I'm
what's
sure he
keeping him
has.
quiet, isn't it, Mark?
My voice is setting to sleep.
I'm sure. But thank you very much. Hope you enjoy your
Thank you
week.
so much. It's lovely to
Enjoy
meet
your
you.
week here, and we shall see you during the week. We were actually in the Bay stores in Whiting Bay this week. We do have a video. It's quite a long one to cut and edit, so we're just still in the process of that. So we'll pop that in online this week sometime. But in the meantime, thanks again, and we shall see you next Sunday.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right, thank you.
Bye now.